We're here today with Brian Jacobs, owner-operator of Golden State Stock Dogs. How's it going, Brian?
Pretty good. How's it going with you guys?
Good, good, and thanks for coming in. And we're just to get us to tell us a little bit about yourself and what got you into stock dogs.
Oh, kind of been around border collies forever. My dad, he trained cow horses, so we had turnback dogs, and they were never very good. But he had a cable that would run across the arena, and he'd just hook a dog that really wanted to work to that deal, and he would keep cattle turned back for him most of the day when we were all at school, and when we got home, we were the turn back for him. And as I got older, I was able to go spend some summers with my grandfather in Wyoming, and he ran a pretty big ranch on the Bighorn Mountains there, and he had 5 or 6 dogs that we took every day when we'd go out to move pairs, and they were phenomenal ranch dogs. I didn't really appreciate them as much as I would now as a kid, but it seemed like we just kind of trail rode, and the dogs did all the work, and that really got me hooked on it. And then I was fortunate enough to move next door to Judy Schmidt, who's a dog trainer, and she owned Cutter's Quarters Border Collies, and got to mentor with her for quite a little while, probably my first 4 or 5 years of working dogs.
Was she a trialer?
She was, yeah, she was a trialer. She would take dogs to the Red Bluff Bull and Gelding Sale, and at that time, the West Coast, the California circuit was pretty strong. You had Merle Newton out there, and Ambrose McAuliffe, and Lauren Holmes, and Bill Boyd. So there was a pretty good group of trainers on the West Coast, and they had all their clients with them. So the competitions were a lot bigger than they even are now. And kind of just had using dogs and pets, till I was about a freshman in high school. And then Charlie DeForest at a high school rodeo, he came up and gave me a puppy. He's like, "Here, you want a puppy?" I'm like, "Yeah, I want a puppy."
Yeah, that's every kid ever.
I'm like, "What is it?" It was just this black pup with a little tiny white spot on her head. And she's a McNabb Border Collie Cross. And that was the dog I decided I was going to start trialing with, and so that's how I started out.
That's where it started out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
So dive into this McNabb as far as how old did you say he was?
I was a freshman when I got her.
Okay, so as she matured and got ready to, and you decided she was trained enough to go into trialing, how did that end up for you? What did you start in the novice then?
Back then, they didn't even have novice. It was rancher. They had a rancher, a non-pro, and an open.
Okay.
And it didn't go very good. We had our cattle. We trained our cow horses and cutters on. Of course, I couldn't practice on those cattle. They change them out every few weeks. So I just taught her directions in our little 50-foot round pen with a buggy whip. And the first trial I went to, I actually sent her on a come by on an outrun, and she just made a really nice 50-foot circle around me. Didn't even know the cattle were there, But going over to Judy's place, she had some other clients. They were all encouraging, just do it. Just, you're ready. Just go on. So I just jumped in and started going. And the first trial I went to was at Merle and Sandy Newton's in Red Bluff. And it was more of a cross-country type course, and you could ride a horse. And I ended up winning the Stockmanship Award for the whole trial, even though we didn't finish. But
Really?
I got most of it done with my horse. But, yeah, that's how it all started.
yeah. So you had incredible stockmanship even then.
Yeah, learning to work with my dad and when you're training a cutting horse, the turn back help can be just as important as anything. If you're not reading the trainer and his horse and what he needs, if he needs a hard bump or a soft bump, or, if they have to tell you every move to make, then you're kind of useless. So doing that really helped. And then working for my grandfather really helped. He was high on low stress,
Yep.
He said, "Hey, if you'd quit pushing those cows so hard, you could pull that breakaway rope down and heal some of these cows, And so I learned to go slow and kind of read what the cows were wanting to do on their own and just make it my idea with theirs. And
Yeah. And you are a professional at that. That's for sure.
And I've heard you reference your dad before. Your dad dog child?
No,
No?
no, he never did. He just trained horses.
Oh,
You know, that was our livelihood. That's how we lived, was my dad's business. My mom, she worked her butt off too. She had a job at the vet clinic, but me and my two sisters, we were employees of my dad from day one. You know, we rode
Okay.
colts, start colts, and lope circles till we were purple in the face, and turned back and cleaned a lot of stalls. And
That's right out of California. Was that
Yeah.
right? Yep.
yeah, we were down there in Galt and Woodland for a while, and yeah, long hot summers cleaning stalls.
Yeah.
You
It's
know.
good for I think it's good for kids.
Yeah, definitely taught me work ethic.
Yeah.
You know, if you're sitting still on the ranch, then probably pretty lazy.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly.
Yeah.
well, I'm assuming that he must have been pretty busy horse trainer if he had you and your siblings all working your tails off.
Yeah, he was. I think from maybe from when I was 7 till I was about 14, he had 20 plus horses in training nonstop. At the most, I think we had 40 head in training.
Wow.
Yeah, he did pretty good. You know, the reining cow horse world kind of changed around 95, 96, and the style changed just like our dog world changed, and he kind of fell behind and didn't advance and didn't, you know, he was old enough. He thought he knew everything, and these
Right.
young guys start rolling in, Clayton Etzel and Nick Dowers and stuff, and,
Yeah.
you know, their horses are bending through their asshole to make a turn, you know, and we were still making big turns. So, but he was good. He was really good on problem horses. You know, he grew up with a prison program training inmates how to break wild horses and stuff.
Really?
Yeah, and trained a lot of Arabs and Morgans when he was younger, and so he was famous. If you couldn't load a horse in a trailer, you called my dad. You know, if you couldn't saddle one, you'd call him. If you couldn't shoe one, you'd call him. So as a kid, I got to see all the crazy stuff. You know,
Yeah.
we weren't riding the best of the best all the time. There's maybe 5 or 6 really well-bred horses in there, and the rest were problems that cowboys are like, hey, we messed up. We better hire somebody now to try to fix this. So we got to see some pretty wild stuff, but it helped me, I think, with horses and dogs in the long run.
Yeah. And how come you didn't go down? Because that is such a vast experience in what you're saying that you could have been catapulted in the horse industry. Why did you change to dogs instead?
I still do horses.
And you do a great. All the horses I've seen are really nice.
Yeah. Physically, it's so demanding, the horses.
Yep.
You know, I don't have a very good back, and to work 5 to 10 horses a day, one guy on his own will kill you. You know, not counting cleaning stalls and feeding and all that stuff. And that's the main reason I think I did. You know, I could go out and work 20 dogs in the time it takes to work 5 horses.
Yep.
And I enjoyed it more. You know, I really liked the fact that we're not judged. It's time and points. Going to horse shows as a kid, I was pretty good in our Northern California circuit, but we'd load up and go to Nevada or Arizona or something, and nobody knew who I was. And I'm like, damn, that was the best run I ever made, you know? I think that's a 72, 73, and I'd come out with a 68,
Yep.
you know? So that judging part of it,
There's some politics in that, in all judging.
anything
aspects,
that's
yeah.
judged, even the sheepdog world where they're judged, there's politics in it.
Yep. Yeah.
And so I really liked it. Didn't matter how much I yelled, what happened. If you have the best score with the fastest time, you're going to win.
Yep.
So
Going off the kind of lines, as far as time and judged, that's exactly what sheep trials are. The field sheep trials have a lot to do with the judging, and your end score at the end of the day is dependent on 3 other people. And have you done much field trial sheep?
very little.
Why?
Mainly, I don't have the type of dogs for it.
Okay.
I did when I was a kid. When I very first started trial, or a little after I started trialing, I had a lot of sheep dogs, and that's what I was doing for a living. And then I moved into cowboying and day working and stuff. And, you know, most of my dogs, if there's a lamb out there 800 yards, it's probably gonna
Not be a good result.
yeah, I'm getting DQ'd.
Yeah, yeah.
And the few that I did go to, I didn't fit in very well. You know, show up with cowboy boots and Wranglers and a belt buckle on, and you know, I really like that this industry promotes the Western way of lifestyle.
Yep.
And when I go to that stuff, it's not the same.
It's not, yeah. And it's each to their own. I think that there's some good dogs there. I'm with you. I'm not. I'd rather work cows because I enjoy doing more than sheep. But that's just me, I guess. I would rather go to them.
I 100% prefer working cattle, but I have cattle and I have sheep, and I'm honestly I'm entered in the Tremont, and I can't remember what the run's
He
called.
keeps trying to get me into it.
It's my
too,
first
right?
sheep trial. I'm gonna go try it because I think there is an aspect to that long distance and a little bit more control. The sheep are flighty, obviously, and what's maybe stupid of me or crazy, I'm taking my strongest dog that I have and the one I have the hardest time being precise, and it might be a train wreck, but also that dog tends to shine in that area because I don't know why cattle bring out the demon in him. Like they get heavy and it's almost like they challenge him, and he's like, he almost gets impatient with the cattle. Where the sheep, he knows if he goes in a little too rough, they're going to scatter, and that's more work for him. So then he's always on his toes, ready to do the move, in versus going in and pushing on him and being a jerk. It might be a colossal fail, but I'm going to try it. Just go. Why not? I've never done it. You know what I mean? I might go check it out.
Do it. Make sure you video for me.
Yeah,
oh,
me too.
yeah.
I'll be
Yeah,
there.
kidding.
I'll
Yeah,
get a
kidding.
video. I may try it too, but I'm a bit more scared than Chance. So.
I was talking to Brianna today, and I was like, the only thing I don't want to do is spend $250 and send my dog and just get DQ'd before they ever come to the first obstacle or something like that. But we're hoping we get a little farther into it than that before we get DQ'd.
Well,
But we'll see what he's a jerk. We'll see what he does. I'm a jerk. I'm a jerk. We'll see what I do. You know.
Just talking about dogs, me and Chance were arguing before. We're not arguing, we're just chit-chat before you got in. I remember your dog, Ramel, and he had Elwood, and we wanted to know who won more.
Well, Romel's still winning right now.
Yeah, with your mom.
Yeah,
Yep.
and I won the MSSA national title with him as a nursery dog, and then NCA won nursery and Open. He was the only dog I've won the NCA Open national title with, which to me I think is the biggest award in our industry.
Yep.
You know, they make that final so tough, and it's a big field, 15-minute course typically. So I won that with him. I don't know. I don't really pay attention to other people's dogs, you know.
Yeah.
I should, but I don't. Even my best friend Frankie, like I know one of his dogs, and I don't know the rest of them. So, but I would almost guess Romel won more.
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, that's what
So that's very interesting
that's a
to
win
me
for me.
because I'm new enough into this industry that I was talking to somebody today that I thought MSSA was the largest. Is the NCA cattle industry bigger than the MSSA?
The MSSA is definitely bigger in numbers, but it's a totally different organization. I was on the NCA board for 5 years. Okay. I was the West Coast director for 3 of them, and then I was the vice president for the other. And it's very sheepdog influenced. The NCA is, you got Juan Reyes and Bob Wagner and Jeff Mundorf and those guys that come from the sheepdog background. So when we go to their finals, it's a big course, big outrun, a lot of distance between obstacles.
Yeah.
The obstacles are very simple, but the time it takes to get from one to the other, you know, if a dog makes any mistakes for 400 yards, 300 yards to that next one, you lost him.
Which is a long ways to go. Without making a single mistake. Yeah.
Yeah, and the handler's line is usually a post. So where the MSSA, I think, is more of a speed type finals. It's more adrenaline based, and it's more exciting to watch for sure. But it's just totally different.
Yeah.
And so
Which is cool. There's such extremes on either end. You get to watch either or. It's pretty fun.
Yeah. Being out here on the West Coast, I thought I was pretty good. I'd won every major trial out here. Most of them back then were horseback. And on a horse, I think I have an advantage on most people. And we go back to Meeker, Colorado for the first NCA finals. And I'm walking out looking at the course. And I'm like, why are there panels like way up there on the hill? And we were at Juan Reyes' ranch there where he calves his heifers. And he's like, well, they're going to set them out of a trailer up there, and you got to weave those panels and then bring them down here in the bottom. And I'm like, I can't do that, you know? And I couldn't. I sent my dog Moose on an outrun, and he went up and brought him straight to me. I missed every freaking panel in the whole field, and I didn't even know what an inside flank was at that time.
Oh, wow.
You know, and that was long before the MSSA was even.
What year was that? Around about
2013.
Oh, really?
2012. Yeah.
See, Meeker's only an hour and a half from my house. I've been over to the Meeker sheep trials and Soldier Holler because they're both like an hour and a half from my house.
Mm-hmm.
But I dang sure ain't qualified to enter them. But I never knew the NCAA had any finals that close to go.
Oh, yeah.
But back then in 2013, I wasn't even in the stock dog world. So
Yeah, I wanted to pull out after the first round because you got 2 rounds guaranteed. And my buddy Elliot Roberts, he went out there with me. It's just him and I. He's like, no, we drove this whole way. You're getting in it. Like, I'm not going to be able to do it, Elliot. He's like, you're going to do it. We're came. So I did it. And then I also entered the open horseback. And, you know, they let you go with your dog. And I won that. I won the championship there in the horseback. And then I was hooked.
yeah.
And I came home and I was like, I got to fix all this stuff. I got to figure out how these guys are doing this. And I'm kind of prideful. You know, I've never asked anybody, hey, how do you train this? And I've never watched a video. I've never been to a clinic. But I always had a lot of dogs. So I thought, let's go see what works, you know?
Yeah. Well, tell me if I'm wrong, but clinics help. Asking people helps. But in my experience, 90% of what you learn about how to work a dog is when you're working a dog by yourself in your pen, just putting in the hours, learning how to feel what they're telling you and trying to learn how to communicate with them.
Absolutely.
Because it's just...
If the dog can understand what you're feeling, you know, like if I'm going to load a trailer, that dog better feel, hey, let's get him loaded. Yeah. But if we're going out to gather some wild calves, they better... hey, he's being a little touchy right here, you know?
Yeah.
And I like a dog that thinks like that, not a knucklehead that I'm constantly yelling at that doesn't even know I'm in the picture.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And that's hard to find, really.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, we're all looking for that one, aren't
For
we?
sure.
Yep.
You know, even if we have the best bitch in the kennel and we're like, she's exactly what I want, and we cross her on a good male, those pups, none of them might be what we want.
Yeah, we talk about that a bit with a few people. Is you can cross 2 good dogs, and that whole litter might not just make it. They're not the ones you're looking for.
For sure.
But yeah, breeding dogs is hard, and I do think it's, in the cutting world for sure, it's a catalogue thing. Everyone's judged the same, with the politics not excluded, of course. But everyone's looking for a nice big stop, a good turn. In the dog world, I think that there is I like your dog. If you like my dog, we breed them. But the people down the road might hate both of them, and they're breeding something different. And there's everyone's not striving for the one thing because there's such a vast diversity in it. I think that cripples us a little bit.
It does, but I think it also keeps it interesting.
Oh yeah, definitely.
You know,
yeah.
If I see dogs running here today, I'm like, if that was my dog, no one would ever beat me.
Yep.
And honestly, you know, but can I produce that? Can I get that to that? I don't know.
If you was the one that trained that dog, would it be that dog today, or would it be a little more spicy, or a little more chewing on? You know, yeah, it's hard to tell.
Yeah, a dog's environment is so much different than a horse's. You know, they're usually around us in every aspect of our life, the highs and the lows. A horse, you pull them out, you do a job, you put them away. But the environment that a dog goes through as a puppy, I think, really affects the rest of their life.
Yep.
You know, and And I'm guilty of it too. I'm like, hey, this pup's really nice. She needs a different environment than what I can give her, and that's me as a professional. And I'll give her to the neighbor, and I'll see her in 6 months. I'm like, shit, why did I
should've
give
kept
her
it.
that dog? You know, but it's a lot different with dogs.
Not trying to boost anything that I've been doing lately, but I had a guy from Colorado call the other day, and he wanted a pup. And I don't like selling pups, but these ones are getting to be 5 months old. And there's one pup in the litter, and he's a dopey, just last one to turn on. He barely turned on and starts like getting real watchy with his sheep, and he drops his head and he looks cool for like 4 or 5 seconds, and he's like, "Oh, did I just see something over here?"
Yeah.
Or he wants to come up and get petted, you know. And this guy's like, "Look, I just want a little help around the farm. I want me a nice pet, but I want a little help." And I'm like, and I explained to him, I said, "You're looking for something with a lower drive that you can call off, and you don't want, you know, to be continual having your corner of your eye on this sucker all the time, trying to keep him out of your stuff." And he's like, yep, that's exactly right. And I'm like, okay, I've got a pup that is half on, half off, and when he's off, he's just a lackadaisy, calm. He's not your typical border collie wound up. He's had him 3 weeks, and he sent me a video today, and he's hitting the end of the leash trying to grab cows on the nose. And I'm like, oh my Lord. And I said, well, I'm sure you're attached to him at this point, but if you need something that's a little less than that, let me know. We can do some trading or whatever. But I'll guarantee he's like, oh no, I love this dog. You know, even though he's thinking I want less in the beginning, I think he's really attached to the dog already, and it's gonna be an interesting fit now. But you just don't know. Them stupid pups just freaking come out of nowhere. You don't know when they're gonna turn on. You don't even know what they're gonna do. It's just a crapshoot to me.
It is. And even the ones when you're like, hey, look at this pup. Like,
Oh,
look at this
wow.
sucker run around there and just do what you want. And then you're like, that's the one we're keeping.
Mm-hmm.
And at a year old, you start putting pressure, and that pup's like, hey, why are you telling me what to do?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So it's different, you know. On a horse, you give me a horse for 30 days, I can make him side pass, I can make him back, I can make him lope circles, I can make him get in the trailer. Like, I can make him do it.
Because you're in contact with him.
I'm in contact. I'm touching him. I got a long line on him or a lead. I got, you know, he can't get away.
Yeah.
But these dogs, when we're training them, they can do whatever the heck they want to do. I do some work on leash, but that's not what it's about. You know, that's just a small part of the long-term training program.
And talking about pups and going through that process, I want to talk about your training process and your pup selection and going through and moving to give everyone a bit of an idea how you go about getting a dog that you can go and win, be very competitive and win a lot of stuff with.
You know, I'm so fortunate. Me and my wife were able to buy our first place a couple years ago.
Yeah, it's awesome. I've seen some videos. It's a heck of a nice place.
And when we were ready to buy, we wanted remote, and I didn't want to have any neighbors. You know, just because if you have a kennel full of dogs, you don't want neighbors. You know, and so we looked and found a nice remote place. But before that, we were always in California and had neighbors all around us. So I would typically just pick the pup that I liked at 6 weeks old. You know, this one's pretty keen. I'll keep this one, and that's a crapshoot. Typically, I didn't keep the best one. But since we moved, I don't sell any puppies. I keep everything until I can start them. And from, you know, once we wean them off the mom and start kind of individualizing them in their kennels, we'll start letting them out, putting a collar on them, tying them up, and that tells me who's headstrong, who's timid, blah, blah, blah. But until we put them on the sheep, we don't really know. But this has really helped because I'm keeping them. So I know which one's a pair dog and which one's a sheep dog and which one doesn't want to work. and it's been very good for our business, because before I'd just sell a pile of puppies, and I'd sell one to Chance. He's like, hey, I need a pair dog, and the gal that needs a sheepdog gets the pair dog, and vice versa. And I can sell the pups for a little bit more money once I start them.
Yep.
But so that's kind of my program. At about 4 months old, I like to throw the whole litter in the round pen with some sheep, because I just love that part of it, and just see what happens. It's total chaos most of the time, but sometimes there's a spark and some nice ones, and sometimes the whole litter just really nice.
The one with the dot head. Oh, look at him.
Yeah,
and this
look
one
at
with the
him get
half
around.
face is kind of stylish, and it's fun.
And then I start putting some more time on them individually. And then about 7, 8 months old, I start taking them in individually all the time. And my deal, I put a lot of pressure on my dogs without putting pressure on them. Not everybody can train dogs.
Yep.
You have to be a little bit dominant in order to have the respect of an animal, especially a dog. And so I start to see who moves off the pressure without being offended, who takes it as a positive thing that they can get where I'm trying to push them, and they feel like that's a reward. And then once I can do all the basic stuff in my round pen, just pushing around a balance and letting them bring them to me, I can down them and I can call them off. Then I move into a square pin and start working on some driving and inside flanks, and I do a lot of that on a long line at first. Some dogs graduate out of that round pin in 3 or 4 days. Like, if they just run around to the top to the balance and they lay down, like, we don't need to do that anymore. Like, and that's what most border collies will do. And then once I graduated out of the square pin, I'll go back to my round pin for maybe 2 or 3 works just to make sure all that outside stuff is good. And then I take them in the arena, and I kind of make it chaotic at first to see, like, I'll have them in the round pen and I'll open the gate and just let those sheep run off. And I really like to see a dog that just gets around, doesn't split them, just gets around to the top and brings them back to me. And once I can work them in the arena and do the same stuff I do in the small pen, then I graduate them to some lightweight calves. I'm really big on fresh cattle. I think a lot of people have the same training stock for way too long.
That's me. Hit Chance, give me a good look. I'm cheap, so I got like these 3 little. But it hurts me. And
you can't afford to buy the cattle.
Yeah. When I first met Travis, he was like, the training stock is the most important part of my program, and I need to protect them. And I'm like, yes and no. You also need fresh, and you tell me your opinion on this. Is we at my house, I tend to abuse my training stock a little bit so that I can get that dog where he doesn't abuse the stuff that's making money.
Absolutely.
At the end of the day.
And I was on the opposite of what you just said for a long time.
That's where I'm at.
Yeah,
and who
Travis
I learned
was
with,
there.
it's like, hey, your dog's on my sheep. It's like, yeah, sorry. And so then people start getting anxious about that.
Yeah.
And then the dog feels that anxiety. I don't know the math on it or the science, but my dog can feel me from 100 yards away.
Yeah.
Without me saying anything. They can feel what I'm feeling. And so if I'm like, don't bite a sheep, we're going to bite a sheep.
Yep.
And until I was older and could realize that, and once you, like you were saying, abuse them, it's not hard for me to go draw up a couple cc's of penicillin.
Yeah.
And I do that a lot. But I think a lot of people are so worried about their training stock and that the dog suffers in the long run.
Then if the dog suffers in the long run, what suffers after that? Your animals. You're working after that,
and especially at the trial.
Yeah, and then you're losing money at the trial and on the farm and everywhere else because you got a dog that's wrecking fences, bringing down your stock that you want that are gaining by the pound and everything else.
Yep.
Because you didn't get that out of the way in the beginning.
You bet.
Yeah.
They have to have respect.
Yeah.
And you know, leaving to come up here, I left my wife. She's gonna have a baby in
I saw that.
like 3
Yeah.
weeks.
Congratulations.
And yeah, thank you. And the grass is turning green, so it's like every morning when you're done with chores, turn those sheep out, let them eat, you know. And she's like, well, what am I going to put them away with? You have all the good dogs with you. But I've got 5 or 6 nice client dogs that they don't know a lot, but they have a lot of respect.
Yeah.
And so she's never worked any of them. I said, you could take Beth or Alice or this dog, just go do it. I said, if you call me and say something happened, it happened. Who cares?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
we'll fix it. And she's used a different dog every day to put the sheep away, and we're on 700 acres. I mean, they're not just in the yard. They're up on the hill, and they're in the creeks and stuff.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but the pups know they need to respect the livestock.
Yeah.
And the only way they learned that was by controlled chaos, pretty much.
Yep. Yep. So when you was talking about, you said when you get to the arena and you turn them sheep loose and you want to see what's going to run away, and it's a little bit of controlled chaos. How often do you go to the arena and then say, okay, we're not quite ready for it. We're going to go back down to the 40, or we're going to go back to down to 16 or whatever. Jump back so that you can move forward again.
Every day.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. I mean,
lot.
well, maybe not with every dog.
Right.
But if I'm going to train dogs, it's usually 25 to 30 dogs a day. I'm like, if I'm working dogs today, I'm working dogs. And luckily, I've designed our place to where we have a 65-foot round pin attached to the arena, and then I have a 60 by 60 square pin attached. So, you know, you send that pup out there and it's chaos. He busts through the middle of them. Well, I know I need to kick him out and make him run the fence. I'll take him into the round pin right there. I'll just stop, catch him, go in the round pin. Hey, move out when I say move out. Work that for a little bit, and I'll go back in the round pin or in the big arena. And sometimes that doesn't work. Sometimes I go back and end in the round pin. But having those pins connected to the main big pin has been very helpful to me. Until this place, they were at different locations.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like you got to catch the dog.
Get livestock over there.
Yeah, and I think dogs, their brain resets so fast.
Yes.
You know, it's like if you make a mistake, you better address it immediately within a couple strides of the mistake. If you wait 10, 15 feet, the dog's already forgot that he made the mistake. That's how I think about it. So having those pins connected there has really helped advance the dogs faster. And
Yeah, that's amazing. And what do you think it does to the dog to jump to that next level? And that, okay, you're not ready for it, come back. But what do you think it does to that dog when you show him another world?
It does a lot of things. Sometimes it unleashes a beast, you know. It just hopefully it shows them the big picture of what we've been setting them up for to that point. You know, all the little stages in the training that I've tried to do, hopefully they all come into play right there. And they're like, oh, this is why we've been doing this for 5 months. But that's not the case every time.
Right. I mean, that's what I kind of get chills a little bit when you talk, because some of the things I'm like, I'm hoping the way I think is maybe what the pros are doing, you know, because that's exactly what I was thinking. Is like, sometimes I take them to that next level to show them, look, this is what we're grilling. This is what you get to do if you'll work with me, you little bugger.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because some dogs really want to butt heads with you.
Do you really call them little buggers?
Yeah, little buggers.
Yeah. this is Stock Dogs Unleashed. I know what you really say.
Well, we'll let the audience guess on that for now.
It doesn't stop.
But I do think it shows them another world. And they're like, well, that was fun. Well, yeah, if you'll get it right in the 40, you get to go to the arena, bud.
Yeah.
So start working with me.
Yeah. Yeah. The funnest thing for me is when I think a dog's ready to go use outside,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and to throw a pup out on some pears and some pine trees, it's like no one's around. It's like if you where the cows have nowhere to go.
What are you going to do, bud?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they come out bawling at this pup, you know, and I usually run an older dog with them, but some of those young dogs, they'll just step up and they're like, we got to do this job, you know, and others are a little scared and some are a little submissive and some run clear 2 miles back to your pickup, you know, and that's what's fun about the training. You know, it can be discouraging, but sometimes the one you're not that high on will just step up and be
Yeah.
like, where do these pairs need to go?
Yeah.
Let's go. I got this older dog right here. Let's bite these cows, you know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's awesome.
Are you are you running quite a few pair cows in like pine trees? What kind of work are you doing ranch wise off the dogs?
So all our pairs are down in San Benito County. They're still down in Hollister. And my father-in-law, God bless him, he takes care of all of them. Like, he has his own herd plus our herd, and they're super dog broke. So he does it all with his trial dogs. And now that I met him, before I met him, he used hay to bait his cows in.
Nice.
But now where we live up there in Modoc County, my neighbor right across the street, he runs about 900 mama cows, and he's got 50,000 acres of BLM ground leased and on one side and 130,000 on the other.
Wow.
Yeah, so all spring and summer, they're out there. So I help push them out, help spread bulls out, help gather in the fall. So a lot of that type of work.
That is cool.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing, because people do, like, they see you at these trials and you're winning, and I'm going to bring up what you've won here today, or yesterday, actually. But that's cool why this podcast is diving into Brian Jacobs and the other part of what you do when you go home. So I think that's pretty cool, because I didn't know that. But if we're talking about what you won, the Cash Cattle Challenge Shootout, $8,000 you're going home with today. Oh, well, when you do go home, tell us a little about the dog that you won it with and what went into the selection of that dog to choose to bring to a trial like this.
Oh, the dog I won it with is SBC Ivanka. She was bred by Katie Starr's breeding program. She owned the female, and my good friends and clients, the Weinbergers, they own the male. His name's Hot Shot. And they're big-time ranchers. They're in Central Oregon. I mean, trialing's the last thing on their minds. They need a good, strong cow dog. And I've been training dogs for the Weinbergers for probably 11 years now. I've had some really good ones. I've won the Red Bluff Bull and Gildencell twice with a couple of their dogs.
Nice.
At one time, I think they had 5 pups in training with me at one time.
Wow.
Yeah, Kirk was running a lot of cattle, and he needed dogs, and they didn't have time to start them, even though they were perfectly capable themselves. They've been doing this long before I was even born. We kind of had a break in our business relationship for a while, and me and my wife, we were moving up to Granger, Washington for a bit, and they knew we had to drive right through their place in Prineville. And they said, hey, come over here. We want you to take some more dogs in, and we want you to pick what dog you want. So we went over there, and I think they had 8 or 9 puppies, and just 4 months old, and I picked Ivanka out of all of them. And she was phenomenal, and she's never had a spot where I thought she wasn't going to make it. We trained her up, and I took her to the Southwest Futurity there in Vernon, Texas, and I won the Futurity with her, placed second with the dog that I raised, and then won a ton of trials after that. And then this year I took her back, and we won the Open with her, and just started getting ready for this and trying to figure out what dog I wanted to run. And we were in Winnemucca, Nevada a couple weeks ago, and Ivanka won the first round and the second round. And coming into the finals, I was 3.5 minutes ahead of my buddy Steve. He was in second, and he laid down a smoking run in the finals, and I beat him by 30 seconds.
Oh, jeez.
And so I said, I better just enter her. She's on fire.
Yeah.
And she's pretty pushy. She's very pushy, and she's probably one of the best dogs I've ever used outside.
Yep.
You take her out on pairs, and she'll light them up, and then she'll get out. And then once you start trailing the pairs, she stays off. It's like you're not constantly calling her back. But if something challenges her, she makes them not challenge her again.
I have noticed that about her. At all your dogs you run, it seems like Ivanka pushes on you more than any of them.
It's a controlled runaway, pretty much. But that's what you need to beat these guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really is. You have to.
I mean, you got Joni and James and Frankie and you, and running in there. Well,
Yeah,
He's talking to Travis. He said you to
yeah,
Travis.
it's like, oh, some other people.
and Nathan and Barry, and there's so many good
Oh, they're
competitors,
amazing.
and they're all pushing,
Yep.
and there's never been a day at a trial in my whole life where I saw somebody's time and I tried to beat it. Not once. I've always just done as much as I thought my cattle could give me. And I thought, if my dog's in the right spot and he's not wasting time over flanking and not laying down, then we're going to have the fastest run. And that's how I've worked my whole time that I've been doing this, and it pays off. Sometimes I'll get into these sheep trials here and I blow it up because I'm trying to push faster than they're ready for. So that's why I picked her. She's just on fire, and
Paid off.
and she's in full-blown heat. We started breeding her 3 days ago. I brought a male from home that we were going to cross on her, so she's been getting covered twice a day by him.
And winning trials
And
at the
winning.
same time.
And, when you see me run her, all you're ever going to hear is my down whistle. Most people don't hear any of the other flanks, and that's because I got to just keep hitting the brakes on her because she won't make a mess of things, but she'll go faster than we're ready to go for with those cattle, and that's how she wins a lot,
I like that a lot, though. You try to go as fast as your cattle will let you go, which means you're thinking about the stock, which I guarantee is a real important key for these guys that are trying to come up, looking to take your pedestal from you. You know what I mean? Is that's everybody looks at everybody else's time and their dog, and you can't win without those cows. And
No.
and when I watch you, it's like I don't know anybody else that has better stock sense. Like I think at that winning run, you walked away and waved at the cow and told it, "Hey, you go out that side gate." I was like, "You son of a bitch.
Yeah.
Where's that come from?" You know what I mean? You were headed to the next gate in the last obstacle for the sort, but you're like, "Hey, cow, take a left." And you sent your dog over to get the other two, and I'm like, "Oh my Lord. I don't know if that'll work for anybody else, but it's your stock sense that's insane."
It is impressive, and that's what I do watch a lot with you, and I'm trying to study it, and I don't think I've got it, obviously. But you see the run today? Whew, got beat out, but that's all
pretty
right.
dang good.
TC
But,
stock dogs is coming up.
Yeah, we're coming up.
I think they're
I'll be
open next
I'll
year.
I'll be in the circle one day. Just you wait. Next episode when we get Brian on, he'll mention me. But no, I try to emulate it a lot, and I'm not there yet. And I'm hoping now I got you locked in the kennel. I can ask you the questions. When you're bringing them around, you're excellent at drawing cattle to you, and it seems, if just to the naked eye, it doesn't seem like you're doing much, but your timing and moving back and drawing them cattle towards you and your positioning is so spot on. When you're doing that, can you explain what's going through your head? When does it just come natural, just over time and working cows, or do you have a process there that you're trying to do?
Yeah, it's from getting yelled at a lot as a kid.
Yeah,
Going back to my dad, which I hate talking about him, but he had a horrible temper,
yep,
and if he's working this colt, and you better figure out like how to bump that calf at what speed to make that colt work his very best for where he's at in his training, and so you have to have a big understanding of like the whole program plus the cattle, and I learned to identify cattle because, we'd get 25 head of black calves in, and they're all black. And so when we kick a calf into the pen, it's like, oh, that one does this. Oh, that one does that. This one does this. He's on this horse. I better grab that calf. And as soon as my cattle come in the arena, if there's 3 of them, within the first 5 seconds, I identify all 3 calves, even if they're all the same color.
What are you identifying in that?
I'm putting markers on each animal, and so I can say, okay, the black heifer or the black steer, if they're dual sexed, is ideal. Sometimes they're all heifers. I'll say, okay, this one has a green ear tag or a blue ear tag. This one has a droopy ear or a shit stain on their hip. But I try to identify them individually, and when my dog first comes into contact with those cattle, I say, that one's submissive, that one's the leader, that one's a bully, or they're all nice, or they're all bad, or whatever. And I'm really judging them hard right there. How fast they move off. Because I know my dogs. I know how much pressure they're putting on when they come around. And then that helps me, sometimes, if I send that dog around and something squares up to him, I'm going to tell him to bite. Almost every time. Sometimes I won't, but I want to figure out how that animal's going to react to my dog right then and there. I don't want to wait till I'm on the winning edge of the winning run and then figure out that the calf wants to fight. I want to figure out at the beginning or who's going to move off, and that's usually my leader. The one that moves off is who I try to keep in the lead the whole time. Most people just work 3 head of cattle. So that's what I'm doing. I'm seeing, this one moved off. It's looking for a hole, so we want that one in the front all the time. And if I make a mistake and I have to regroup cattle, some people are like, well, you spent a little bit of time there. Well, I was milling those cattle till that leader was ready to go because the other 2 aren't leaders. So that's what I'm...
That's smart, yeah.
I mean, that's... And I think about their feelings. Most people think cows are stupid, and they are pretty stupid. I mean, intelligence-wise, but I'm thinking, is that calf happy? Is he sad? Is he mad? Is he hot? Is he, sick? Is he willing to work?
Yep.
And you can't win without the cows.
No, they give it every time, and
Yep.
I've been fortunate to draw good cattle and some bad ones.
You got everybody sitting here training these dogs, but what do you hear 99% of the time? Drew bad cows. I drew the wrong one. Oh, he drew the right one. I drew, and well, you better learn how to freaking work that one.
You bet.
And that's really. I heard recently that you putting on trial clinics.
I'm gonna do
Is
one.
that right?
Hopefully, I'm gonna do one.
Oh, okay. You're getting ready to do some.
Yeah, Annie Reynolds there in King Hill, Idaho. She's gonna host a trial there. I think the 17th and the 18th of May. She's got 120 calves there, and I'm running the trial for her. So hopefully we can start a few days early and just do trial prep.
I think that's amazing because.
And I'm first on the list, so fuck off, Chance.
I mean, there's so many people that are in this trial industry that don't have the means to go do real ranch work, and I think that's a little bit of an edge when you have real work to do, and you want a trial. You mesh the two, and you're like, look, this, there's a common sense about this, not just a time and points and hurry. But for the people that don't have the real ranch work, I think I've never heard of anybody doing that before. Do a trial clinic, start learning the aspects like you're saying right there. What do the cows have to do with this process, and start teaching some of that. And I think it should be a hit, really, I think.
And there's not too many people as proven as you too. And in your winning, your record and results spoke for themselves for a long time. So they're learning from someone that's been there, done that. And it's truly, in my mind, one of the top in the nation.
Well, I appreciate that. I'm a little
Even
nervous.
though I didn't make your list, but that's fine. No big deal.
You're on your way.
The
You keep
backpedaling.
bitching about it in the background. He's going to be on his way.
Backpedaling doesn't look good on you.
The problem with the dog deal is that every situation's so different.
Yep.
Cutting horse, you can put him on the flag and be like, the flag moves up and down. You can structure it exactly the same way over and over. Even if there are training calves, every time they come in, it's a different situation.
Yeah.
And so the trialing clinic is going to be fun. I hope it's not frustrating for people because I tend to overload people with info. And when I start talking about, cattle's emotions.
I don't think you can put on a trial without overloading. Not a trial, a clinic. Every clinic I ever went to, you walk home with 3 things in your head and you got taught 100.
Mm-hmm.
It's overloading, but I mean, every time you go and spend a little money and get those 3 things, you're improving.
Yeah.
You bet.
And which is something, it's good because you're not hiding anything. You're giving them everything, whatever you get. And people might all get different things than Chance does, or the next guy. So I think with all that information, people will retain a piece, but a different piece than the other guy. So I think it is good to load them up. I'm very slow. That's why I'm going to come early.
talking about, you said that when you put a horse on the flag, okay, there's the flag, get to work. And we touched on that earlier. I would like to know when you're training a horse, it's a little bit about, we're going to work this out. Like, we're going to go until you give and break them down, I think, because I'm no horse trainer. But a dog has to enjoy it.
It's all mental.
Yeah, they're not just out there. You can just say, okay, physically, I'm gonna put some pressure on your rib, and I want you to give to it.
You bet. I mean, sometimes, I'll go in there to work a dog and say they're pretty new, and the day before that, they were just splitting the sheep over and over and over and over, even in my round pen, and say it's their second or third day, and I'm just trying to teach them that flag pressure. Hey, and I'm super big on the flag. Like, I think it's like a loaded weapon. Like, if that flag is in the air, you're shooting somebody. Like, I keep it on the ground, and if I lift it 2 inches off the ground, it should mean something. If it's in the air, we're in war.
Gotcha.
Me and the dog are in war if it's clear up here. And a lot of beginners or non-pros, their flag's in the air the whole time they're out there practicing. So if I'm trying to teach this pup this, hey, when I step into your shoulder, you need to lift your shoulder up and move off. And I struggle with it the whole day, but I quit on a decent note where he's moving off. And then the next day, I come into that pen and I step to that dog and he just moves off. I will stop and I will put the flag down and I will pick him up and kiss him and pet him and just tell him he's the best damn dog in the whole world. Like, do one move. I won't even be in the pen for 30 seconds. And then we'll walk out, we'll go get a drink, and I'll love on him again and put him in his kennel, and hopefully tomorrow he does the same thing. And if tomorrow he does the same thing, I can add to that.
So you're kind of talking about literally having an emotional connection with the dog to get him to do. You're trying to show him the things that you like versus a horse, almost a little physically making him.
Yeah, and I think with the horses, the very best trainers do what I'm saying with their horses. They just put the cuff of their pant leg on that horse's rib cage to get the same reaction the next guy does with his spur.
Yeah.
But you've got to read the dog, and that's how I quit every work, because I'm reading that dog. And I think the dog's brain has a certain temperature that it can get to before it can't learn anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And if you stay in that pen past that stage, you're wasting your time, and you're actually erasing everything you taught him up to that point in that training session. And so physically they can go all damn day, but mentally is how we train them. And so if we're not in that dog's mind and making him think, he'll just stay cool. But if he's getting hot, and it's not because he's an idiot, it's because he's thinking, it could be fairly fast.
Being a horse trainer and a dog trainer, what's the two differences, and what's the difference in their time frame? How long do you train on a horse, and how long do you train on a dog per average?
I'd say a smart dog can pick something up that's very valuable in 2 minutes.
Really?
I can teach a dog to lay down a dog that really is keen in 30 seconds. Like, first, I step on the leash. I don't know what everybody else does, but when they feel that down pressure and they drop, other dogs, I got to stand on it for 45 minutes and keep doing it till they finally figure it out. A horse, they might do something by accident, and then we have to repeat it and say, okay, yeah, that's how we do it. That's how we do it. And usually a very smart horse can pick it up in 2 or 3 times at the least. But most of the time it's repetition with a horse. And it is with a dog too. But a dog's way, way smarter than a horse.
And I think it's a big thing. And like I do tell people all the time, the dog's only ever looking to really please you. They're wanting to do the right thing for you.
You bet.
But a horse, he's only getting away from the pressure so he can go back to the barn, be unsaddled, and turn loose and eat with his buddies. If you died tomorrow, he don't care who's feeding him.
You bet.
If you feed a dog, the day someone else feeds a dog, they might be a little watchy at the start, or they really care about you. Not their horses could care less.
A dog could be starving in his kennel, and a stranger walks up and he ain't gonna eat the food. a horse, any horse, even a wild Mustang, you throw hay in there, he's going to start eating. 'Cause
Yeah.
the survival. You have a prey animal and you have a predator animal, so their brains work completely different.
Yeah, and that's what I like about the dogs. I do think that there's a lot of rewardness in that because the success is quicker than a horse, because a horse is really, that's all he's thinking about is going eating grass with his friends. He could care less if you rode him, but a dog could care a lot if you worked him.
You bet.
So I think that's a big
Well,
big
and I
part
think that's pretty cool that you say we're working with a predator animal and a prey animal. And I think a lot of people that have dogs don't understand they're dealing with a predator.
Oh, yeah.
So how does that relate to your working dogs, the predator aspect?
Oh, a ton. You know, like I was working in the sheep an hour ago, and I have a dog that's broke. I won a lot of money with him. He's super sheepy. He's got a lot of style. And these sheep just looked at him. He had to walk in with to 2 feet of him to get him to move. And then I got this other dog that's freaking pear dog. Like he's a little out of control. 100 yards away, those sheep are moving off of him. And they can feel that. Just like I was saying earlier, the dog can feel us. Like, people don't understand that an animal can feel you from a long... You don't have to say anything. If I walk out of the house in the morning and I'm in a bad mood, every one of my dogs reacts to that.
Yeah, they do.
You know? And a horse is a little more even killed. Like, they're like, oh, he's just an asshole. You know?
Yeah.
Here comes Brian again.
He's going to start kicking on me.
Yeah.
all the time. Yeah.
Where a dog is not like that. A smart dog, anyways. A dumb dog doesn't. They don't know.
But
But
I tell you what, every time my wife pisses me off and I got to go train dogs, and one of them gets a spanking, I just look her right in the eyes. I'm like, "This is your fault. You did this."
Yeah. But the
Not really. But
yeah.
That's exactly what happens.
Really,
you leave the house frustrated, your dogs know it. You know it. They know it. It's like, oh, you know what? Today's not the day to train. I'm having a bad day.
You
know?
bet. That's a big part of it. If you're a trainer, most of the people in our industry, they have 1 or 2 dogs. So when they have a free chance, they better work their damn dogs. But there's days where I'm like, we're working dogs today, and my wife's like, why are you saddling horses? What are you doing with the tractor? I'm like, it's not a day to work dogs.
Yeah.
What do you mean? Well, it's just not the day to work dogs. You know, I'm not in the right state of mind. And if I'm not in the right state of mind, it's all a waste of time with the way that I train.
Well, and it's and in a way, it's not fair to the dog, because if you're not in the right frame of mind, then you're literally just putting out vibes and emotions and decisions that are rougher on the dog than if you were right there ready to help them do what they need to.
But people have the
looking
same
for.
thing though.
Yeah.
If you walk into a bar and it's completely silent, and you can walk in, if it's a happy feel, you can feel it.
You bet.
But if you feel like you're going to get your head beat in, you feel that too. You feel the tears on the back of your neck. I think the dogs have that, but are on steroids. They can feel it so much better. Because I hear a lot of people, I think they talk about the same thing. And I think some people are like, that you're full of shit. That's not a real thing. But you can feel when people are mad at you without talking to them. And I think dogs have that tenfold.
Absolutely.
We're talking about horses a lot, and I know that you missed last year's finals because of your breeding mares or something like that. You have a horse program too.
Yeah.
Tell us a bit about that.
So, you know, I'm always striving for a long time, I'd buy horses and problem horses and fix them and put a year on them and get them really nice and resell them. And that's how I made a living. And just, you know, with social media and stuff, like the cost of horses just skyrocketed. I mean, for a dink, it was $15,000. So the room for profit is just not there anymore. And I did that for 8 years. I mean, I made a living doing it. And I said, forget this. And I'd been buying some colts out of a ranch in Williams, California. And they were nice. And they were kind of older breeding. They were top-sailed Cody and Hollywood Done It and Buckaroo
Yep,
Bueno.
I know Hollywood Done It, yeah.
Buckaroo Bono checks. And I was kind of getting their rejects a little bit for decent money. And so I started kind of looking for a stud horse, and they called me and said they had 3 horses for sale, and one of them was a little Perlino stud colt.
What do you call him?
His name's Chrome.
Is that big Palomino you ride?
He's a Perlino, so he's all white. He's solid white. He has a black underskin, but he's all white.
Okay.
And we sold his full brother the year before at Red Bluff for $49,000. I topped the sale with his full brother.
Wow.
And they just have a super good mind. They're just easy, you know, and they want to be cowy, and they're gentle, and they're a little lazy, which for the general public I think is important for just using horses.
Yeah,
and
way
stuff.
more people than not.
Yeah, you know, you could have the best sucker in the world, but if he's hot, he's only going to fit the very best guys.
Yep.
And I really liked him and started using him at some ranch rodeos and stuff. And so we said, oh, we'll breed some mares to him. And I like to team rope and stuff, and my wife likes to run barrels, so we found some run and bred mares and old foundation bloodlines, and so we turned him out. And with where we live, the winters are pretty harsh. And so we knew we wanted a foal a lot later than everybody else does. We're not doing any snaffle bit fraternities or NCHA fraternities. I mean, we're going to take him to some rope horse stuff. And so the 3-year-old age didn't matter to us. And I didn't do the math correctly in my head, and it landed right on the MSSA finals, which I haven't missed since last year was the first one I missed since the very first one.
Yep.
And so I missed it last year. This year we turned our stud out way late, and we're going to foal in August and September. But for our weather, it's going to work for our program. Yeah. But my goal, we had 4 really nice foals born last year. And this year we got 9 mares going to foal. And so what I'd like to do is keep all of our offspring that's nice enough to the stage where I can have a group of 5-year-olds that we're roping on, 4-year-olds, 3-year-olds, 2-year-olds, and weanlings, and have a sale at our place.
Oh, that'd be really neat. Yeah.
Yeah, and eliminate having to travel to everybody else's and give them the commission and deal with all the
They
BS.
can do it right there at your house, especially when you got it. So you're going to be really busy.
Yeah. You know, I train a lot of outside dogs, and I love training dogs, but I hate it. You know, people bring me their dogs, and they're just screwed up before I even get them a lot of times, unless you're a repeat client and you understand the program. So I'm trying to figure out a program that we can stay afloat and have a little money and do what we love and be able to go down the road and show some horses and dogs. And
yeah, because I don't think there's many people that wouldn't come to a Brian Jacobs trial clinic and something like that, and that would get you away from that. I don't know if that's something you do, but it's I'm coming.
Okay.
I'm first on the list.
You're not allowed to ask any questions.
I'm going to ask so many questions. I'm going to be your worst.
So you said earlier that you're on 700 acres. Or is that mostly what you're doing right now, is just pushing horses on that 700 acres?
Yeah, it's great ground for that. I mean, we got 350 acres of really nice sandy loam, and then some mountain ground behind the house. And
Are you still in California?
yeah, we are. We're very close to the Oregon and Nevada border. Unfortunately, we're still in California, but we're really close. I mean, I go get fuel up my truck in Oregon when I need.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So, but where we moved does not feel like California. I mean,
Right.
there's 200 people in our town, and they're the best dang country people you've ever met. And like,
Oh, yeah, that's right. You was telling me you got a neighbor that does the hides.
yeah.
And braided your necklace.
Yeah,
there for
that's a
your
great- who
lanyard
is
for
that?
your whistle.
That's Bud Davis. He owns Ash Creek Rawhide, and you know, that's going back to when we first moved up there. The word of the dog trainer moving into the community really spread, and it was good. It wasn't bad for once. You know,
Yeah.
in a small community, they're like, "Oh, this guy has 1,000 dogs," but up there, everyone's like, "He's got cow dogs," you know.
Yeah.
And people were calling me, "Hey, we got a broken-legged cow or a broken-dick bull. You know, you want the meat?" Because we feed a lot of raw meat in our kennel. And I said, "Yeah." And this guy calls me, and I never met him. He's like, "If you want, you can call Bud Davis, and he'll probably come skin it out for you and stuff if you just want the meat, if you don't want the hide." And I'm like, "I don't know who that is." He's like, "I'll send you his number." I called. I said, "Hey, Bud, this is Brian, you know. Got a cow over here. You want the hide?" "Oh, yeah." And
Them rawhides are like junkies. They'll come running for a dead cow. Older the better. The skinnier, the older the better.
he's pretty particular on what he does. Like, it's got to be a one brand cow. I mean, he's got high dollar stuff, and I didn't know that at the time, and I really didn't have an appreciation for rawhide till I did meet him. And he's like, "Come pick me up." I'm like, I never met this guy, you know. So I go pick him up. We go out there, and luckily they had a tractor. They lifted this cow up, and Bud just starts quartering her and skinning her. And I mean, I'm not joking. In 30 minutes, he was completely done.
Wow.
And I had 4 ice chests completely full of beautiful meat, and Bud had a beautiful rawhide to skin to go work with, and we became best friends immediately. And we've probably done that like 20 times since I moved
That's
up there.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Which saves them from having to run, take it and drop it off in a dead pile and having a mess. And you get dog food, he gets rawhide, and the whole thing's cleaned up. And
he does some amazing work. Like I've seen the leashes and that, like these. I can't afford them, but I do like them.
Yeah,
that's
beautiful.
A hint. That's a hint for a discount.
That's to afford them.
But if you're listening, you can sponsor TC. You can sponsor me. I'll be on Brian's list one day.
You know, he's a perfectionist. Like if he's in the middle of something, he could be almost done with a set of reins even. Like, and he gets really good money for his reins. If he doesn't like something, he'll just cut them in half.
Yeah,
man.
I've met a few guys like that. It's an art. It's not just a bang one out. It's an art form. They're artists. Yeah, those guys.
So you had some killer reins on your horse at Winnemucca. Did he make those?
Yeah, he made them for my birthday for free, actually. The Oklahoma style. They got buttons all the way down it. And
I went upstairs and looked at the booth. Those are not cheap.
No, I mean, he gets $3,000 for a set of reins.
Judas.
You know, and so it takes so much time. If you count from the beginning process of skinning the cow to the very end when you hand that set of reins to the product, I don't even know how many hours it is.
And you can't beat a good set of rawhide reins and the ropes.
Yeah.
Have you got a Ramada?
Yeah.
Them things.
I just got one. I'm learning how to use it. I'm an old team roper, so it's pretty different.
It's terrifying.
Yeah.
They are legitimate, but it is such a cool aspect of roping a cow with something that was made from a cow.
Yeah.
And the care that goes into them. And they're not, it is amazing. The people that can use them, there's an art to go into using one of them too. They're not just your everyday bang off the ground, go to, said, like the tricks, they're amazing. They are great.
Yeah.
I'm just super glad that this, like you said, $3,000 set of reins.
Yeah.
In this day and age, it's hard to get people to pay for the work that people put for talent. Let's put it that way. It's hard to get people to pay for talent, and I love when somebody actually that's rewarded.
These rawhiders.
That shit, what's around your neck right now is amazing. That's an art.
Yeah, I mean when and it goes back into like what do you want to put on your horse's neck? Like really, Benny Catrone, Smokey Pritchett, those type of guys are who have been buying reins from this guy forever. And when you lay a set of those reins on that horse's neck, he's going to react different than he does on the other set of reins. And people don't understand that.
And the feel of your hand too, like a good set.
Yeah.
The feel in your hand is there is a big difference between a craftsman and just someone that's just banging them together, and the feel in your hands is huge. Because I've got a couple sets, and I've got some friends that rawhide too, but the craftsmanship that goes in the time and the work, and it's just a skill, and it could be a lost art form very easily, but there's enough people that are willing to pass it on. It is a really cool thing. But yes, if you're listening, you can. That was a plug for you, and you can send me a free set, whatever.
There you go, bud. I bet he'll give you a leash for sure. He's very giving. We just had a gal had her barn burned down, and she lost a bunch of animals and some dogs and stuff. Shirley Schold, she had a bad deal happen, and she's in a bad way. And I donated some training on dogs for the auction, and Bud donated a leash and a lanyard and a Bozell.
Is the auction still going on?
Yeah, it's still going, I believe, till the 25th.
So where do people find that?
On Facebook, it's the Shirley Schold Benefit Auction.
Okay.
And people have really come out of the woodworks. I think there's over 100 items donated.
Yep.
Stud fees for dogs, sheep, furniture, artwork, everything you could think of.
Well, anyone listening, pull your finger out and go out and help, because everyone on the land has had some sort of hardship. Everyone knows where it is, so everyone can chip in and help Shirley out.
Yeah, Shirley Schold. Yeah, she lost some actually pretty good trial dogs too.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
that's so sad.
She had her breeding ewes in the barn, and
Yeah. Well, and then I bet not if you can't get a hold of her with the auction. I'm sure there's some sort of way that you can help contact her or something to.
Yeah, you get a hold of me and I'd line you up, or you
Yep.
guys. And
Yep, that's awesome. Well, I have some 5 guest questions we hit everyone with. I'm going to try to throw you in the deep end here. If you answer them wrong, I'll judge you forever. If you could have any dog over, which one would it be and why?
it would probably be my original, really good foundation dog, Moose.
Okay.
I would have him over, and I would say the reason for having him over was because now that I have the knowledge that he taught me, I could incorporate that a lot earlier on in his training. We bought him as a coming 2-year-old, and we only bought him as a stud prospect. I had a bunch of sheepdogs at the time. We were doing controlled grazing in the Bay Area, and all sheep and goats behind the electric net wire, so we needed pretty sheepy dogs, and I knew I was getting out of that, and I needed a male to cross on those females, so we bought him. It took me 5 years to train him. Really, it took me 5 years. When he was 7 years old, we went to the finals I talked about earlier, and I didn't have inside flanks on him. I had everything else. I mean, he was pretty keen for most people. Come home, and in 60 days, 90 days, I had everything on him that you could ever have on a dog, and for 3 years, I never really lost a trial with him. So I just wish I could have sped that up, because I spent a lot of time doing the wrong things and pulling my hair out along that. But he taught me a lot about what I do now with all of my dogs. So it would be him for sure.
And
Yeah.
those type of dogs I love because, just like you said, you learned to train on him, and he wanted it so bad. He accepted this style and this style and this new rule and this new rule. And 7 years later, you put freaking inside flanks on him.
At 7.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then
That's
went
an
on
amazing
to win everything.
dog.
Everything. Yeah, he is the dog that the next day you're like, oh, he ain't going to be ready to go. And he was more than willing to go and would outlast every dog there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we did everything from catching wild cattle to trialing with him. And
They are amazing, and that's what is lucky when you fall in and you get a dog like that early on. It spurs you on to continue on training the next one, and they will let the next one will let you down. But there's another one coming that's you're excited about. But
you bet.
no, that is cool. Well, 3 people you'd like to have dinner with, dead or alive.
Oh,
It doesn't have to be dog people. It can be anyone.
I would say I'd have to have dinner with my buddy Frankie Aosta.
Yep.
He's been my best friend for quite a few years and best man at my wedding. And so him, and then definitely Elliot Roberts.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah, he's the type of guy. He gave me a job when I was down and out, and he had a pretty good landscaping company. And I went. He's like, "You don't want to do this." I'm like, "I need the money." He's like, "Well, come on." and so he helped me a lot, and he still helps me today. And then I'd probably have to say John Wayne.
There it is.
Good answer. I was
Yeah.
waiting for that one. That is a good one. Talking about Elliot, who is a younger version of John Wayne, I guess. He is a great guy, always willing to help you and everything like that. And I enjoy talking. He did beat me today, so if I see him, I'll run him over my pickup. But
On top of that, Frankie Aosta has competed very well at this trial, and he seems to be bumping up and up and up in this trialing world. How'd you guys get to know each other?
That's a funny story.
Hell yeah.
They had a trial at Oakdale every year at Oakdale Saddle Club there in California. And I'm coming around the buck and shoots here with some, and they always brought the crappiest cattle. I mean, the West Coast, California has the worst cattle in the whole country for trialing. I still today. I mean, it's not something new. They're unprepared with dogs. They're wild, and they're usually pulled off of some irrigated pasture by a few guys with 4-wheelers a couple days before, and they come to the trial. And to get through a course with them is tough. And I'm coming down the buck and shoots with these cattle to do my second to last obstacle, and there's this Frankie guy standing there with this big, giant, hairy dog and just blows my cattle off the wall. And I needed to keep them on the wall, you know. and blew my run up. And I was pissed. I started cussing out. Get the F off the fence. What are you doing? Does anybody know this guy? You know? And I come out to go to my trailer, and here comes Frankie. He's going to whoop my ass. I mean, he's like, F that. Like, he had no idea what we were doing in the arena.
He just knew you as being a jerk.
He knew I yelled at him.
Yep.
Is all he knew. And I calmed the situation down. He went his way, and I went my way. And Frankie was lucky enough to hook up with some really good people, Mike Canaday and Robbie Richardson and some guys. And he jumped right into that trial world. And we hated each other for a few years. Like, see him at a trial, and he just avoided me, and I'd avoid him. And one year when the NCA moved to Cheyenne, Wyoming, nobody from California was going except for me. And I was at a trial talking about it, and Frankie's like, hey, he's like, I was going to go to that. I'm like, well, it's 1,100 miles. You want to just jump in with me?
You want to jump in with a arch enemy.
And we were enemies.
Yep.
He's like, yeah, I'll go. And he was defensive about it. Like, he didn't think I'd pick him up. And we went. And by the time we got to Wyoming, we were best friends.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and we have been ever since.
Did you ever have the conversation of like, why the fuck were you standing
Oh, no,
in
he
my way?
understands now. He thinks it's funny. He's
Yeah,
like, I
yeah.
fucked your rut up.
Yeah.
yeah, he did.
You cost me $75, you...
And so he,
That's cool.
from my understanding, he lived in California, right? Where
Yep.
you? So what made him move to Oklahoma?
I won't speak for Frankie, but a good opportunity
Good.
for him for just doing just dogs.
Yep.
You know, when he was still in California, he was on a very, very remote ranch and taking care of some cattle, and he wasn't, in my opinion, necessarily appreciated very well.
Yeah.
And at a trial, I think he was actually in Denver at the stock show there. He was selling a dog. It was the first dog he sold at auction. And this guy was just super impressed with his dog and said, hey, you want to come
Oh, cool.
train at my house?
Good.
And that was John Stoudemire.
Oh.
And they kind of talked about it for about a year or something. And then he's like, hey, come train out here full time. And
That's pretty cool.
yeah, and so that's what moved him out there. And then he met his wife out there. And
Yeah, he got married not too long ago too, right?
Yep. I was the best man in his wedding.
Oh,
and
that's cool.
yeah,
That's cool.
Yeah, it was good. And he loves it out there. I don't think he'll ever come back to California.
It
which
is beautiful over
I'm
there. I've been
glad,
over there a
'cause-
couple
Yeah.
times. It's pretty stuff.
I
I haven't been to
Yeah.
California near as much as I've been that way, but it's just, I think it's as pretty as anything I've seen in California. You know, it's beautiful country out there.
You bet.
Have you ever forgiven him?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Oh, yeah. We're all idiots
Yeah.
when we first start.
No. All right, well, moving on. If you could go back in time and tell your younger self something, what would it be?
A lot of things. A lot of things.
I told you they're going to be hard.
I don't know about that. I mean, there's a lot of things I would have done over. I made a lot of mistakes. I didn't get married till I was 32, and I'm glad I did wait.
Yep.
But I made a lot of mistakes. Partied hard. I mean, I left home when I was 15, and so I had my own place, and all my friends were still in high school. So I thought I was doing really good, you know, and had my own place and a pickup, and I was riding Colts for a living. And next thing you know, I'm 21, and I'm way behind everybody else at that,
Yeah.
you know, because I just stayed kind of partying, and I'd team rope for 5-6 days in a row and never go home. And
Sounds like a teenager's dream.
I would say actually, you know, grab a hold of people that you respect early on is what I would have done. Had a chip on my shoulder, thought I knew everything and didn't need help, and you really do, you know, until I realized that and started, hey, can we do this? Can you help me out, or we'll just work together, or what's your opinion on this? Until I started doing that, I would say I was messing up.
That's pretty cool. That's
right
good.
on. Yeah, that's perfect. There's a lot of ones, like one guy said, take care of your health, and I thought that was a good one too. So
I'm not doing that still.
yeah.
Still got a couple lessons to learn.
Yeah.
Favorite thing to do when you have a bit of time off from working dogs, horses, or the days that you get a chance, which I know is not many with you, but if you do, what do you like doing?
Hanging out with my family, playing with my son, fishing. He's only 2 years old, and he loves to fish. My wife loves to fish. We like looking at landscape and looking for wild animals and, bear and deer and stuff. And
You got another one coming. Do you know what it is yet?
it's a girl.
Oh,
Oh,
boy.
yeah, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
They're the craziest. Well, I got a little girl, and she's our second and last. She's cure anyone, and they're a lot. Boys are easy.
That's what people say, the opposite of what you're saying, and I hope that
They're
you're wrong,
lying.
'cause
They're
my son
lying
is
to-
out of control.
They're lying to you. You think you are wrong. They're lying to you.
Yeah,
That's like
he's got a special breed. My daughter was way easier up until puberty. And it's like,
Yeah.
oh, no.
Then that's
But then get him around 17, and I'm old as dirt, but
he is.
My
so old.
you get him up around 18, and the boys are so much worse than the girls. It's just the emotions the girls bring in the house. You start banging them against your wife, and you're like, emotions flying everywhere. Just cross your fingers. You only have one.
Oh, I'm done after this. I already have an appointment at the vet for that shit.
Yeah, there you go.
You can talk to me later about that, and I'll talk you through it.
Okay. You're not doing the procedure.
Yeah, he'll try.
Yeah. It's a have you got a joke and or a quote? I like hearing both, so don't let me down.
I tried to think of one earlier, and I don't think I have one. I would like to have some super good joke, and I'll think of it later. But right now, I
Or a
don't.
super good quote. I'm like, some
Yeah.
of these guys throw out quotes at us, and I'm like, whoa.
There was a good one.
And I'm like, I don't even have that. I don't have that in my head.
Yeah.
I don't know why not.
Yeah, I wish I could remember, re-quote what this guy yesterday told us, and I liked it a lot, but I'm not smart enough to remember it. But I do like the one, start where you are, use what you got.
You bet.
I think that's a good one for anyone getting into anything. You
Yep.
don't have to have the fancy stuff, but if you use it and work hard, you'll get it.
You bet.
And for everyone listening, to get a hold of you with Golden State Stock Dogs, because I know you love talking dogs and stuff like that, how's the best way to get in contact with you?
Facebook's probably the best way. You can either go to our business page at Golden State Stock Dogs, or you can go to my personal page at just Brian Jacobs. That's the very best way. And, if people are serious, just send me your number. I don't care for texting or emailing or messaging back and forth. I mean, to talk to somebody on the phone is worth more than anything to me. So if you're interested in lessons or buying a dog or just learning more about what we do, just
Organizing a clinic.
organizing a clinic. We host a lot of trials. We can pull in, help you run your trial, or even custom day work if you have trouble gathering cows, or don't know how to put a branding crew together, or don't know how to put a vaccine program together. Call us. We'll travel quite a ways. And
And it's not just with dogs either. The horses I have seen you ride are extremely nice. So I think get in contact with that too in
You
the
bet.
future. By the sounds of it, with rope horses especially.
yeah, hopefully we'll just have that production sale, and that's the goal. I'm sure we'll sell some privates here and there, but hopefully it'll just be a nice auction and that we do every couple of years.
And just a quick one, just right on the end of it. You usually finish it up right there. Feeding the dogs, horses, and stuff. What are you feeding them?
We're very fortunate to be sponsored by Nutrina Feeds. We had a rep grab a hold of us last year. We were sponsored by another company that was really good to us, and Chuck Sears out of California, he said, hey, I want you to be our guy, and he's been very, very good to us. And as a sponsor, sometimes you get products that you don't really want or need, or you don't think they're the best, but from what I can tell, this Nutrina feed that our dogs are on is very good.
Yeah, they look great. They look shiny and happy, so that's wonderful.
Yep, the kennels are easy to clean. Dogs are healthy. They like to eat the food, which with the border collies is a plus. Some of
Yes.
these pickier dogs, they'll just dump it over. They like this food, and I couldn't be happier with Nutrina.
All right, well, and then people to get in contact with about Nutrina or anything like that, contact you as well.
Yeah, get a hold of me, and I'll hook you up with the California rep, or even Frankie out in Oklahoma. We got him hooked up with the rep out there. So Chuck is awesome. He'll call anybody in the whole country right away and be like, hey, this guy needs dog food, and hook you up.
Yep.
That's super awesome, man. I freaking appreciate you coming on this show. It's been, I guarantee I've learned something I'm going to go home and work on, and I'm sure everybody else has learned a bunch too. It's been a very entertaining talk.
You're blushing again, Chance.
I am. I'm starstruck. Starstruck.
Having us on.
No, thank you very much, Brian, and we'll do this again for sure.
Sounds good.
All righty, thanks.
Thanks, guys.